and a very good evening. You're watching the news tonight. I'm Frank Rausen Pereira, and we'd like to make an appeal to all our viewers. Rajya Sabha TV appeals to its viewers to stay safe from the COVID-19 pandemic. Wear face masks, wash hands and face regularly, and maintain physical distancing while stepping outside. Remember, these simple precautions are all that it takes to defeat the pandemic. And now it's time to bring you the headlines. India to grow at an impressive rate of 8.8% in 2021, says the IMF. New Delhi to regain position of the fastest growing emerging economy, to surpass China's projected growth rate of 8.2%. Prime Minister Narendra Modi releases autobiography of former Union Minister Balasaheb Vikhe Patil, says government helping farmers to become entrepreneurs instead of remaining just food providers. Paddy procurement at MSP for Kharif season reaches record high of 251% over last year in Punjab, increases by 35% in the rest of the country. At 55,000, new COVID-19 cases touch lowest single-day figure in 2 months. Health Ministry says India preparing to distribute vaccine by early next year. WHO chief calls Arogya Setu app key tool that helped identify clusters and expand testing. Elections to 11 Rajya Sabha seats on the 9th of November. Polls necessitated by 10 members retiring from Uttar Pradesh and 1 from Uttarakhand, including Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri, Ram Gopal Yadav, Raj Bappar and others. Well, let's begin with our top focus in the bulletin this evening. The International Monetary Fund said on Tuesday that India will grow at an impressive rate of 8.8% in 2021. In its latest World Economic Outlook report, the IMF said that the country will regain the position of the fastest growing emerging economy, surpassing China's projected growth rate of 8.2%. The Indian economy, severely hit by the coronavirus pandemic, is projected to contract by a massive 10.3% this year. IMF said global growth could contract by 4.4% this year and bounce back to 5.2% in 2021. In the report, the World Bank said that the spread of the virus and containment measures have severely disrupted supply and demand conditions in India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Tuesday released the autobiography of late Lok Sabha MP Dr. Balasaheb Vikhe Patil. The autobiography is titled Dedicating One's Life for a Noble Cause. Prime Minister credited the Padma Bhushan awardee for bringing farmers together. The Prime Minister also renamed the Pravara Rural Education Society to Lok Nete Dr. Balasaheb Vikhe Patil Pravara Rural Education Society. Here's a detailed report.
Releasing the autobiography of Dr. Balasaheb Vikhe Patil on Tuesday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said the recently enacted farm laws are creating opportunities for farmers to progress from being food providers to being entrepreneurs. He also expressed hope that model of local economy and local enterprise will take the country forward.
आज खेती को, किसान को अन्नदाता की भूमिका से आगे बढ़ाते हुए उसको उद्यमी बनाने, एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप की तरफ ले जाने के लिए अवसर तैयार किए जा रहे हैं। चीनी में जो चमत्कार महाराष्ट्र में हुआ, जो क्रांति, श्वेत क्रांति, दूध की क्रांति गुजरात में हुई, जो बदलाव गेहूं हरियाणा और पंजाब में भी किया, लोकल इकोनॉमी, लोकल एंटरप्राइज के यही मॉडल देश को आगे लेकर जाएंगे.
The Prime Minister said there was time after independence when the country didn't have sufficient food stocks. He added the priority of the government at such times was to see how crop productivity could be boosted. The Prime Minister also said that for the first time this mindset has changed, and for the first time the country has shown concern for increasing the incomes of the farmers.
सरकार ने किसानों की हर छोटी छोटी दिक्कतों को दूर करने का प्रयास किया है. पीएम किसान सम्मान निधि योजना से किसानों को छोटे छोटे खर्चे के लिए दूसरों के पास जाने की मजबूरी से मुक्ति दिलाई है. कोल्ड चेन्स, मेगा फूड पार्क्स और एग्रो प्रोसेसिंग इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पर भी अभूतपूर्व काम हुआ है. गांव के हाटों से लेकर के बड़ी मंडियों के आधुनिकीकरण से भी किसानों को लाभ होने वाला है.
Praising Balasaheb Vikhe Patil, Prime Minister Modi said that Dr. Patil dedicated his life for the welfare of poor, farmers and villagers.
डॉक्टर बाला साहब विखे पाटिल जी महाराष्ट्र के गांवों की एक और समस्या के समाधान को लेकर हमेशा प्रयासरत रहे और जिसका भी विस्तार से वर्णन देवेंद्र जी ने अपने भाषण में किया. ये समस्या है पीने और सिंचाई के पानी की दिक्कत. महाराष्ट्र में पानी परिषदों के माध्यम से उन्होंने इस दिशा में एक जन आंदोलन खड़ा करने की कोशिश की थी. आज हम संतोष के साथ कह सकते हैं कि साल 2014 के बाद ऐसे प्रयासों को अभूतपूर्व बल दिया गया है. प्रधानमंत्री कृषि सिंचाई योजना के तहत महाराष्ट्र में बरसों से लटकी 26 परियोजनाओं को पूरा करने के लिए तेजी से काम किया गया.
Noting that COVID-19 threats still persist, Prime Minister called for observing social distancing norms and maintaining effective personal hygiene. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, 8 union ministers are holding virtual rallies over 8 days in Punjab to address apprehensions of farmers amid widespread protests against the centre's farm laws. On the first day today, Civil Aviation Minister Hardeep Singh Puri described the agricultural laws brought by the central government in the interest of the farmers. He targeted the opposition for inciting the farmers by calling the new agriculture laws anti-farmers. Union Ministers Gajendra Shekhawat, Anurag Thakur, Jitendra Singh and Smriti Irani are also slated to address virtual rallies in the coming days.
जब तक साडी सरकार है एमएसपी नहीं हटाई जाएगी. दूजी गल मंडियां ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ एपीएमसी या मंडियां तक ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੈ मंडियां भी ਰਹਿਣਗੀਆਂ पर ਹੁਣ ਸੁਵਿਧਾ ਇਹ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਚਾਹੋ ਤੇ ਮੰਡੀ ਦੇ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਬਾਹਰ ਵੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਫਸਲ ਨੂੰ ਵੇਚ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ.
Well, elections to 11 Rajya Sabha seats, 10 from Uttar Pradesh and 1 from Uttarakhand will take place on November 9th. Here are the details.
Members who are set to retire are Chandrapal Singh Yadav, Javed Ali Khan, Ravi Prakash Verma and Ram Gopal Yadav of the Samajwadi Party, Arun Singh and Neeraj Shekhar of the BJP, PL Punia and Raj Babbar of the Congress, Rajaram and Veer Singh of BSP and Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri. Their term is concluding on November 25th. Notification will be issued from October 20th to 27th. Scrutiny of nominations will be done on October 28th. The last day of withdrawal of candidature is November 2nd and polling and counting of votes will be done on November 9th. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, in Bihar, the notification for the third phase of assembly elections was issued on Tuesday for 78 constituencies spread over 15 districts. The polling will be held from on the 7th of November in this phase. The last date of filing of nomination is October 20th. Scrutiny will be held on the next day, and the last date of withdrawal of candidature will be 23rd of October. The notification was also issued for bypoll of Valmiki Nagar Lok Sabha constituency. The electorates can exercise their right to franchise both for assembly polls and the parliamentary bypoll of Valmiki Nagar constituency. For this, separate EVMs will be used on concerned polling booths. Well, it's time now to bring you the latest updates on the COVID-19 situation in the country. India is showing a trend of declining average daily cases over the past 5 weeks. Last week, active cases fell below the 9 lakhs mark after a month and have steadily followed a downward slope. Here's the latest on the COVID situation.
For the first time in 2 months, India reported around 55,000 cases in a single day on Tuesday, indicating a downward trend in the number of new cases. In the last 24 hours, 77,760 patients recovered from the coronavirus, while the numbers of patients who recovered from COVID-19 has touched 62.27 lakh. Total infections are 71.75 lakh. In the last 24 hours, there have been 706 deaths, adding to a total of 1,09,856 deaths. Active coronavirus cases number 8.38 lakh, while the national recovery rate has now gone up to 86.7%. According to ICMR, 8.89 crore samples have been tested so far. 10.73 lakh samples were tested on Monday. India is showing a trend of declining average daily cases over the past 5 weeks. The country recorded less than 75,000 new infections for the 5th day in a row on Tuesday since the September surge of around 90,000 cases per day. India is also reporting fatalities below 1,000 for 10 straight days.
देश में जो कुल रिकवरीज हैं, ऐसे लोग जो कि डिस्चार्ज हो गए और रिकवर हो गए, भले चंगे हो गए, उनकी संख्या 62 लाख से अधिक हो गई है. आज ये संख्या 62,27,295 है, जो कि विश्व की हाईएस्ट संख्या है. जो कुल एक्टिव केसेस हैं, यानी ऐसे केसेस जो या तो अस्पताल में हैं या घरों में हैं, सेल्फ आइसोलेशन में, मेडिकल केयर के अंतर्गत, उनकी संख्या 9 लाख से कम चल रही है. आज 5वां कॉन्जिक्यूटिव दिन है जब ये संख्या 9 लाख से कम है.
Test positivity rate, or the ratio of positive cases to the number of tests conducted, is also declining. Average daily COVID-19 positivity rate has fallen from 8.50% between 9th September to 15th September to 6.24% between 7th October to 13th October. 14 states have higher test per million and lower positivity rate than India average.
पिछले 5 सप्ताहों में ये 8.50, 9.21, 7.87, 6.82 और 6.24 हुआ है. तो इसलिए पॉजिटिविटी के डिक्लाइन में भी एक कंसिस्टेंट ट्रेंड हमें दिख रहा है.
Karnataka, Maharashtra, Kerala and Tamil Nadu reported the highest maximum daily cases, but their daily caseload has reduced significantly. West Bengal reported the 5th highest daily increase in cases. Maximum deaths were reported from Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal and Uttar Pradesh in the 24-hour period. According to the Health Ministry, about 35% deaths are of patients in 45 to 60-year age group and 10% in 26 to 44-year age group. India has one of the lowest mortality rate globally. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan on Tuesday said that India is likely to have a coronavirus vaccine by early next year. The minister was chairing the 21st meeting of the high-level group of ministers on COVID-19.
We are expecting that early next year we should have vaccine in the country from maybe more than one source, and our expert groups are already formulating and devising strategies to plan out how do we roll out the distribution of the vaccines in the country, who do we give the vaccine first, and then of course we are strengthening the cold chain facilities.
Well, Vardhan also appealed to everyone to observe COVID-19 appropriate behavior during the forthcoming festival season and the winter months. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization has praised India's COVID-19 contact tracing app Arogya Setu for its role in helping the public health departments identify clusters and expand testing.
Digital technologies are helping to make these tried and tested public health tools even more effective. The Arogya setup from India has been downloaded by 150 million users and has helped city public health departments to identify areas where clusters could be anticipated and expand testing in a targeted way.
Meanwhile, American firm Johnson & Johnson has paused clinical trials of its potential coronavirus vaccine due to an unexplained illness in a trial participant. The company is reviewing participants' illness and investigating the cause of the illness. J&J's experimental vaccine was found safe and induced immune response against the novel coronavirus in an early to mid-stage clinical trial. The vaccine was undergoing final stage trials involving 60,000 people since September. Well, a day after being tested negative for COVID-19, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu on Tuesday shared his experience of combating coronavirus and his journey to recovery. He had tested positive for COVID-19 on September 29th and was found to have recovered from the infection on Monday. Naidu, 71, was asymptomatic and was under home isolation. His wife Usha had tested negative for the infection. In a Facebook post, he thanked all those who prayed for his well-being and urged everyone to exercise regularly, eat protein-rich food and avoid junk food in order to fight against COVID-19 infection. During home quarantine, Naidu said he was able to spend a good amount of time by reading newspapers, magazines and articles on various issues including the pandemic. He expressed happiness that 136 infected employees of the Rajya Sabha Secretariat too had made recoveries. Highlighting government's efforts on the COVID-19 front, he wrote, "The need of the hour is for people to display a collective determination to defeat the virus by wearing masks, washing hands and following safe distancing norms." Meanwhile, the Parliamentary Panel on Health and Family Welfare is examining implementation of AYUSHMAN Bharat. The memoranda in this regard may be sent till October 23rd. Here's more. The department-related Parliamentary Standing Committee on Health and Family Welfare, headed by Rajya Sabha MP Professor Ram Gopal Yadav, is examining implementation of AYUSHMAN Bharat. The scheme has two components. One, setting up of health and wellness centers, and two, Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. The committee will inter alia examine the implementation and enforcement of the program with respect to institutional arrangement, categories of beneficiaries, financial mechanism, medical packages, empanelment criteria of the private hospitals, services available at HWCs, grievance redressal mechanism, progress and status in the states, challenges in the implementation of the scheme, monitoring mechanism, reforms needed to mitigate fraudulent practices and ensure better quality of healthcare services, etc. Memoranda in this regard may be sent till October 23rd to Bhupendra Bhaskar, Additional Director, Rajya Sabha Secretariat, room number 411, Parliament Annexee Extension Building, New Delhi, 110001. The telephone number is 011-230-34034 and the email ID is rs-cfw@sansad.nic.in. Those who wish to appear before the committee for oral evidence may indicate so in their memorandum. The committee's decision in this regard shall be final. Moving on to some other news now, a joint statement issued by the armies of India and China on Tuesday said that the 7th round of India-China military talks were positive and constructive. Both sides agreed to earnestly implement the understanding reached by their leaders to not turn differences into disputes and jointly safeguard peace and tranquility in the border areas. The statement said that the two sides had a sincere, in-depth and constructive exchange of views on disengagement along the line of actual control in the western sector of the India-China border areas. The joint statement comes after nearly 12-hour-long talks on Monday in Chushul on the Indian side of the line of actual control. The statement added that both sides agreed to maintain dialogue and communication through military and diplomatic channels and arrive at a mutually acceptable solution for disengagement as early as possible. Some news on the economy now. The centre on Tuesday permitted 20 states to raise 68,825 crore rupees through open market borrowings to bridge the GST revenue shortfall. The decision came a day after the GST Council meeting failed to reach a consensus over the centre's proposal of states borrowing against future GST collections to make up for the shortfall. The projected total compensation shortfall in the current fiscal stands at 2.35 lakh crore rupees. The centre had in August given two options to the states to borrow either 97,000 crore rupees from a special window facilitated by the RBI or 2.3 lakh crore rupees from the market. The government said that 20 states have given their preferences for option 1 and 8 states are yet to exercise an option. Well, the Parliamentary Committee on Transport, Tourism and Culture heard from the Secretary, Ministry of Road Transport and Highways on the impact of coronavirus pandemic on the road transport sector. The panel also heard from the stakeholders on the potential of tourist spots in the country, connectivity and outreach. The committee is headed by Rajya Sabha MP T.G. Venkatesh. Well, the first sitting of the Standing Committee on Agriculture 2020-21 was held on Tuesday. After the reconstitution of the committees, PC Gaddigaudar has been appointed as the chairman of the committee.
The Standing Committee on Agriculture on Tuesday considered memorandum on the selection of subjects for examination during the year 2020 and 21. After the reconstitution of the committees, members on the Standing Committee on Agriculture from the Upper House are Pratap Singh Bajwa, Sardar Sukhdev Singh Dhinsa, Narayan Rane, Kailash Soni, Vaiko, R. Vaithalingam, Chaya Verma, Dr. Chandrapal Singh Yadav and Harnath Singh Yadav. From the Lower House, members on the Agriculture Committee are Afsal Ansari, Horain Singh Bey, Devendra Singh Bhole, PC Gaddigaudar, A. Ganeshamurthy, Kanakmal Katara, Abu Tahir Khan, Bhagwant Khuba, Mohan Mandavi, Kinjarapu Ram Mohan Naidu, Shardaben Anil Bhai Patel, Devji Mansingh Ram Patel, Bhimrao Baswantrao Patil, Srinivasa Dada Sahib Patil, Vinayak Bhaurao Rawat, Pocha Brahmananda Reddy, Muhammad Sadiq, Virendra Singh, Vilalat Kochi Krishnan Nair Srikandan, Ramkripal Yadav and Mulayam Singh Yadav. The Standing Committee on Agriculture scrutinizes the work of ministries and departments of agriculture and farmers' welfare, agriculture research and education, fisheries, animal husbandry and dairying and food processing industries. Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the first sitting of the Standing Committee on Social Justice and Empowerment 2020-21 was held on Tuesday. Rama Devi has been appointed as the chairperson of the committee after the reconstitution of the committees.
The Standing Committee on Social Justice and Empowerment met on Tuesday to consider subjects for examination during the year 2020 and 21. After the reconstitution of committees early this year, members of the Upper House and the Standing Committee on Social Justice and Empowerment are Jharna Das Bedya, Ramila Ben Bara, Abir Ranjan Biswas, N. Chandrasekharan, Biswajit Demre, Mamta Mohanta, P.L. Punia, Ramnath Thakur and Ramkumar Verma. From the lower house, the members on the committee are Sangeeta Azad, Bholanath B.P. Saroj, Pramila Besoi, Thomas Charikaran, Chhatar Singh Darbar, Y. Devendrappa, Rama Devi, Menka Sanjay Gandhi, Hansraj Hans, Abdul Khalik, Ranjita Kohli, Vijay Kumar, Akshay Barlal, Pashupati Kumar Paras, V. Srinivas Prasad, Arjun Singh, Supriya Sule, K. Shanmuga Sundaram, Rekha Arun Verma, Tokeho Yapthomi. Ministries of Department of Social Justice and Empowerment, Empowerment of Persons and Disabilities, Tribal Affairs and Minority Affairs fall under the jurisdiction of Standing Committee on Social Justice and Empowerment. Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, held on the 13th of October every year, the International Day for Disaster Risk Management Reduction celebrates how people and communities around the world are reducing their exposure to disasters. On International Day of Disaster Risk Reduction, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu called upon experts, governments and all stakeholders to raise awareness on building disaster-resilient communities and find innovative ways for risk reduction. He urged everyone to focus on strategies that seek to address all types of hazards and leave a more sustainable and resilient planet for future generations. Well, the theme of International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction 2020 is Disaster Risk Governance. Good disaster risk governance can be measured by the number of lives saved, reduced numbers of disaster-affected people, and reduced economic losses. COVID-19 and the climate emergency indicate the urgent need of a clear vision plan and competent, empowered institutions acting on scientific evidence for the public good.
Many countries are facing multiple crises simultaneously. We will see more of these. Extreme weather events have risen dramatically over the past 2 decades. Yet, we have seen little progress on reducing climate disruption and environmental degradation. Bad situations only get worse without good disaster risk governance. Disaster risk isn't the sole responsibility of local and national authorities. COVID-19 has shown us that systemic risk requires international cooperation. Good disaster risk governance means acting on science and evidence. And that requires political commitment at the highest level to deliver on the Sustainable Development Goals and the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction. To eradicate poverty and reduce the impacts of climate change, we must place the public good above all other considerations. For these reasons and more, this year's International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction is all about strengthening disaster risk governance to build a safer and more resilient world.
And with that, it's a wrap on this newscast. But before we leave, Rajya Sabha TV would like to appeal to all its viewers to stay safe from the COVID-19 pandemic. Wear face masks, wash hands and your face regularly, and maintain physical distancing while stepping outside. Remember, these simple precautions are all that it takes to defeat the pandemic.
Thank you.